Hi everyone, it's Eddie here at Eddie Makes Art, and thanks for joining me today. Today I am going to show you one of my newer stencils. This is called Pathways, and what I'd like to do is a bit of a long haul. And for those of you who are new to my channel or new to gel printing, a long haul is basically the technique where you lay your stencil down on your plate and then you start adding layers, right? So you'll put a layer of paint there, you're gonna pick it up. Today, and usually I use a Carnival wet strength tissue. It's great for this process because it holds your paint, it pulls the paint well, it doesn't tear, it allows you to add multiple layers of paint without breaking or ripping or anything like that. Okay, and then I chose this stencil today because this particular design I made has a lot of large openings, and that's great for layering like with other stencils or adding textures. But today I thought I'd play around with adding different colors in different sections. So I've got my big brayer and I've got my little brayer, and I thought we could just play around, have some fun, and see what we can come up with. So at the beginning, it's, you're layering colors and you're building a outline around your design. So every time you layer a paint color, you're building that outline, and that is our goal, is to achieve a good outline that has different colors, and there may be stuff left behind in the open spaces too, and that's okay. So you end up with this, really cool outline at the end, and then you pick that up with the final layer of paint, or you can add, a couple of more layers if you want. Maybe if you are, you can add a metallic or something transparent and then add something opaque to pull it. There's a few different options, but straightforward. You take off your stencil, you have your outline, you let that dry completely, and then you add a layer of paint to pick up the print, and you put down your paper. And it's important, this step is important. Long haul means patience, meaning once you have your final layer down of paint, your final layer of paint down, and then you put your paper down, whatever you're using to pick it up, that has to dry completely 100%, because you are trying to pull several layers of paint, albeit with just, it's a fine outline, but you still have a lot of layers of paint. So you want to be very patient, and this is not going to be a quick pull, sort of final pull sort of thing. So let's start off with what I'm using as far as tools. So I've got stencil, I have an 8x10 gel plate from Gel Press. I have a large brayer. This is an 8-inch brayer, so it fits perfectly on my 8x10 plate. And then I have a little one so that I can get into these smaller spaces without going into other areas. So it's a lot easier, obviously, than trying to do it that way. So got a little brayer. I have some craft paper packaging here that whenever I get something in delivered, I will save the packaging and fold it up as best I can into sheets where I can use it off as a brayer off sheet. And what's a brayer off sheet? A brayer off sheet is when you clean your brayer off, what you clean your brayer off onto. Let me start that again. A brayer off sheet is what you clean your brayer onto. 1, 2, and that helps keep your brayer going, and it allows you to build some other prints. So this paper I've been using for a couple of sessions here, and this is all just cleaning off the brayer in between, layers of paint or prints, what have you. So you can get some really cool prints out of your brayer sheets. Do some fun stuff with them. If you've watched some of my previous videos, I've shown you how to use those brayer off sheets to create, you know, beautiful stuff. So I've got brayer off paper here. Another way I use my brayer off paper, or how I get it ready for use, is I've got an empty, if you can see in there, the empty paper towel roll, the cork, and then I get this packaging, and sometimes, you know, it comes up really crunched up and just, you know, all twisted to allow it to protect whatever is being shipped. What I do is I roll it up on the cardboard tube. It helps keep it nice and smooth, and it doesn't take up a lot of room. So there's a fun tip for you. Okay, I'm going to be using a variety of paints today. If I miss a color, if I miss describing something, please let me know in the comments. I love questions. I am behind on my comment response, but I assure you that I see them as they come in. It's just sometimes I just get really overwhelmed with all different things I got going on that I don't get a chance to respond. So now this is, I got to be careful because you got some sensitive spots here. If I pull this too hard, this will rip. So you don't want to do that. So you want to take your time. Lift it off. Okay, so this is a 74-pound UPO paper, which is a polypropylene product, and they're cut to order individually from PM Artist Studio. And that's where you find all my designs. I also do foam stamps. All that info is in the description box. So this side is the side that's going to go down. And you can start with a color first and then build from that. So I think I might do that today, is start with the color on the bottom and then build up. Why not? The other thing I'm using today, I already mentioned, is the Carnival wet strength tissue. This is actually, if you belong to the Facebook group Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists, there is a color combo every month. This particular month, it's the colors indigo, green, and yellow. Yeah, why not? Why don't we start with yellow and see where we end up? I may not end up being the color combo, but we'll see. But at least we'll start with the yellow. How about that? And this is a semi-transparent paint. Semi-opaque, semi-transparent. Now, since this is the bottom layer underneath the stencil, I want to give it a little bit more than I usually do. I can always pull some off, but you don't want that sucker drying up under there. And it's a nice yellow. It's like it's a primer yellow, so it's going to mix well with the other colors to create, you know, your secondary and tertiary colors. Okay. So I kind of want to lay this down to get as much of the design in. This is a 9x12 that I'm using. It comes in 3 sizes. It comes in a 5x7, an 8x10, and a 9x12. And the reason I'm using the 9x12 on my 8x10 plate is so that I don't have the border here going all around. And that way I just think it's just gonna look a little bit better. So this is our first pull. So what you do is you lay down your tissue paper. I really recommend getting something like a tissue or sort of a tracing paper, maybe even what we call those the butcher paper that comes in just a box like that, and then you pull a sheet out. That is great for pulling layers like this because it won't stick. A lot of times people run into issues on their gel plate because they use like a basic copy paper. And that's fine and all for gel printing. However, depending on the technique, that might and the paint you use, that paper can stick to the stencil. And then you basically got to pull your stencil up, soak it in water, and let that, so the paper comes off. So you want to be careful with that, and this is where it's important to get to know the paints that you have and that you're using. Some paints are stickier than others. Fluid paints, like a golden fluid acrylic, that's going to be a little stickier, or a lot stickier than, let's say, a apple barrel, cracker barrel craft paint. You know what I'm talking about. So anyway, those, it's trash day, by the way, yay. So really what you want to keep in mind is how your paint reacts to papers. That's another reason you want to just play with your paints, experiment, even if it's not, this mind-blowing print at the end. Play around. That's how I got to learn my gel plate, my paints, and how things react together. It's just experimenting. I have still a lot of papers that just, you're like, wow, that is awful. But it was my entry into, using the gel plate and learning how to use it. Is I dived into it, and I wasn't afraid to experiment. And I think that's what helped me learn to gel print faster than I normally would have learned something. I think it's just I dove straight in and just played around. I knew some basic rules, and then I built up from there. So we have our first pull, and throughout this, what I will do is I will come in and I will add layers to these. And this is a fun stencil to play with, design, because I can flip this to the other side and have kind of fun, interesting prints. Let's set that aside. That was yellow. Another thing you want to keep in mind is sometimes it's a good idea to alternate between a thicker, more opaque paint and a more transparent paint. It's not a necessary rule. I just find that gives me better prints. But use what you've got. Don't be afraid. Let's go in. So we did that yellow. What do I have here? I have some fern. This is a green color from Lucas Grill, 4752, and it's a semi-opaque paint. And I say semi-opaque, not transparent, because I don't know if you can see here, it has PW6 as a pigment. That's permanent white. So anything with white is going to be, partially opaque. So we'll do some green around there. And then let's see. See, this is what I mean. What I was talking about by having this smaller brayer at hand so that I could get into these areas, and then we'll do the rest of it in a different color. Just some here. The cool thing too about doing this technique is you notice there's already dried paint on my stencil. However, if I were to use like a sticky paint, sometimes this paint that's already dried in here starts to pull up and give back, and it creates some really, really cool prints. Here, this is light blue permanent. For now. Okay, so not too bad. There's something on here that's giving me lines like that, but I'll worry about that later. These guys need a good cleaning, but I didn't have time today. Another trick when you're using your carnival tissue to pull layers, get some paper towel. I always forget that part because otherwise the paint starts to come through and it goes all over your hands. So keep that in mind. I get my carnival tissue in these large sheets, like big sheets. And then, so when I cut them up to use on the 8x10 and then some for 5x7s, I get a little strip here left over. And I use them for stuff like this when your plate is not, or your tissue doesn't cover the entire stencil. You wanna pick up that paint. Let's see, this might need two, but no. You notice that I left that tissue down for a few while I was doing other things. Looks like that green dried already. Yeah, that dried quickly, but that's okay. But because that won't stick, I know that won't stick. The paper, if I were to use a copy paper, that would stick. Some other tissue here. And let's see if we can get anything else up. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Okay. How about ultramarine blue? This is a transparent Lucas Krill. I'm very careful when I open this particular one because it tends to be very soupy. But don't let these blue paints fool you. This is one of the colors, pigments that dries the fastest. I've come to learn. Blues, your blue paints will dry a little faster than other paints, other colors. See, I'm not worried about anything but just trying to get the paint into the open areas because I want to make sure we're creating that outline. Okay, we'll get some on here. I'm just going to cover that up, but that's okie dokie. Just my paper towel. Okay, see, look at that. That's kind of cool as it pulled up more of the yellow or the fern. This one down a little further to get that paint on the edge here. As much as I can. And something fun to do with these prints. I was actually doing that last night and working on some video ideas that these are great to spray with your inks or your like distress inks or your dilutions, that sort of stuff. Because sometimes when you do these pickup sheets, you have a lot of just a plain tissue showing. But what you can do is you spray them and you get some really cool effects. So these are some I did last night. And these were, cleanup sheets that I was using, when I was making something. And then these are strips, something else, I used the rest of it for something else. And I thought, let me dye it. Let's see, there's this one. And then this one was actually leftover stuff that I was using my silicone mat to do these on. And so you know, what's left over after you pick up your print, the tissue, there's stuff left over on the plate, on the silicone mat. So I picked it up with a plain piece of tissue, and then I added some other stuff to it. So you get a lot of stuff, a lot of cute stuff when you use your sprays. So look for that in another video. We'll do that in another video. Let's get this up. We're going to see some of this paint that's dried on the stencil start giving back, and that's really cool. There's no extra wet paint over here, so I always run my arms always get covered in paint. Okay. What is, oh, this was just this was brayer offs, flop offs I did on some copy paper, and then I sprayed it from the top to fill in all the empty the white areas that were showing. That's cool, huh? Let's go with something shiny now. What do I have that's shiny and new? Let's go with some blue flash. There's not much in here left, I know that. Let's see what I can get out. That should be enough. This is a color shift paint from Folk Art. I was thinking the other day, I wonder what if I did a long haul just using metallic paints. So that's something I'm thinking about too. You know, how much would they cancel each other out? That is something fun, I think, to do. And I do encourage using metallic paints during your long haul, because it does add a really nice sparkle to the outline that's left behind. So keep that in mind. What are some paints that you guys go to? What are some paints that you absolutely love, can't be without? What are some paints that frustrate you? I don't know. Let's get some convo going on that. See, you can probably see it with the light, but I love how that turned out. You get a cool layered look, right? And then you get this nice sheen to it. Very nice. It's a nice day here today, so that these prints are gonna dry fast. It's not humid. It's just a beautiful, beautiful day in the neighborhood. All right, so we got our shiny down. We're doing green and yellow. We've done that. Yeah, the shiny. What if we do another color in that combo? The color combo is indigo. Where's my indigo? As I said, there it is. Indigo is in the color. Now I know this one dries quickly, so I'm going to give myself enough paint to cover this area before it dries. Just enough time. Another way you can lengthen the drying time of your paint is to use what's called a retarder, and that is it's a medium that you add to your paint, and it's relatively inexpensive, but yeah, it helps you, gives you more time to work on whatever you work on. beautiful shade there. And all right, let me get these edges here. Oh, I can't wait for the day where I'm back in my original space where I have room and I can get a 12 by 12 plate and really have at it. But for now, I've decided it's just not feasible to have one because just I have no space to store it or to use it properly. So, ooh, look at that. See, it's still pulling up from the stencil. And that's what I mean by the stencils give them back, or the stencil gives back. Got a lot of cool stuff going on. Let's take here. Let's give this one another layer. Probably not much left on there. And that, like, you notice that dried pretty. That came up pretty good because it was drying fast. So that's, yeah, that's pretty dry. But still, it gives you this really cool effect of on a previous print, previous pull. These are paints that are pretty much running out, but there's still enough in there, but it just doesn't come out. So I spread a little water in it and shake it up, and you know, they still work. So this one's gonna need a little bit more. This is cerulean blue hue. These are Liquitex soft body acrylics. I got these as a set to play around with and to learn about it. Pretty good, and they've lasted me a while. I've had these at least a year. So just give that a little water, a little shaky shake. This one this has other stuff in it too, but this was originally a transparent burnt sienna. Let's see, I'm gonna add what's left in here. Yeah, there's plenty at the bottom there, so let me just give it a good smoosh. And let's see, we're gonna mix these two colors. Now it's bubbly because of the water, obviously, and me shaking it. And I just like these two colors together. It's definitely more on the grungy side of things. And you see how it's starting to separate? That's because of the water in the paint, especially the additional water, reacting to gel plate, which has oil on it because I condition it with baby oil. So that's what happens. I actually have not conditioned this particular plate in a little bit. So, but it's still going strong. And that's another thing to keep in mind is you don't want to over condition your plate because that could adversely affect your plate. Ooh, yeah. Look at that. Very nice. Very grungy. Let's get into it. Let's do a layer of black because this is iron oxide black. It's good to have a layer of black in there. It helps build the outline. Should we give the black some shiny here? Let's add some of this color shift in here. I know this one's almost running out. This is color shift black flash. It shifts to gold. Get any hard bits off here. I don't want that going on the plate. As I say that, I see some has already done that. Pull that right off. All right, let's get in here and mix it up. Tissue. So cool. It's hard to hold because it's wet, but you'll see at the end of the video when I post all the photos. Let's build on this guy, but I'm going to flip it and see what happens. That's cool. Very sci-fi looking. All right. So let's see. Find another color. All right, let's do some green. I'm going to use this festive green. This is a metallic from Deco Art. This is one of those paints that is really fun to use, really good, and it's like very inexpensive. So, don't be afraid to mix your, more high-end paints with your mid-range paints and your lower range paints because you get some really cool stuff out of them. Festive green, that's the color. Get it in there. Okay, I'm rubbing it around because sometimes that helps to get it down into the nooks and crannies. Oh, I've got paper for Halloween. This one on fresh tissue because I was looking for another print that maybe we could put the green on, but no, they're all kind of dark. So I mean, this could be my color combo submission because I've used all three colors plus metallic, black, and I can use white. So this just might be it. Oh, I love it. You see what's going on here? The stencil is, it's allowing to separate itself from the rest, from the, the openings by giving back what's on there. Like, I don't know how to explain that. I'm not a professional, but that's just a really cool effect. This one could use some of that green on there. It's still a little bit wet, not too wet. It's enough, but I think we can pick up the rest of that green on here. Give a really cool look to that print. And a lot of folks, they do ask, what do you do with those prints? I'd love to see what you do with those prints. I don't always show on camera what I do with those prints, but 9 times out of 10, they end up in different projects that I do. Sometimes they end up in swaps that I do. Sometimes they sit around for a while until I say, oh, let me dig through my stash and see what I've got to play with. So, yeah. But there are several videos in my library that show you what I do with gel pens. Because you do get a lot of them, especially when you begin and you get addicted and you get hooked into it, you create a lot of prints. See, that's nice. That added a really, really cool layer there. That's the kitty getting into my bag. You hear that noise. Bam, bam. Let's go lighter. Let's go back down lighter. This mint green. Let's do a little mint green. Let's see what we get with this. This is Lucas Krill mint. Mint there. And then let's do a white. Why not? Or I have this cerulean blue. Let's do that. This one I always need the tool for. There we go. Oh, and that's cerulean blue. This is Winsor Newton Galleria. Doesn't say Series 1. This is going to go quick because these two colors do dry quickly. So I'm going to work as quickly as I can here. Just mix it all up. This is going to be a cool one. I have a feeling. Oh, another thing I like to do with my gel prints is, especially the ones on tissue that have some of the tissue still showing, or they just need a little something extra. Wow. That's cool. What I do is I'll take this, once it's dry obviously, I will glue it down to a piece of cardstock or something stiffer, so that it's got a nice, sturdy flat surface. Once that's dry, I coat it in a layer of clear acrylic gesso, but it's a clear gesso that's got texture to it. And what that does is it gives you the surface a toothy feel, and then I go over it with colored pencil. It's a lot of fun. It's very relaxing. Like once you get into the colored pencil part, relaxing, and it's something I do and I'll sit here and I start at 8 o'clock at night, and it'll be midnight, and I'm like, whoa, 4 hours, and it's very relaxing. I like it. I'm just gonna take a little peek under here. So you notice I'm staying within a certain family of colors. I'm trying to not be all over the place today. I'm trying to focus on those just that vibe of colors, and yeah, because I think it'll make a more cohesive group of papers that I can intermix with other projects. And that's something that I don't always keep in mind, and I use all these different colors, and I get some great papers, but they don't always work together. So I'm trying to keep that in mind. Now, here's a new paint that I just got. I got this for like $1.50 or something recently. So it's in the same line as that green, festive green, the dazzling metallics. I also have zinc. I have and amethyst. What else? I think those are the only ones. I'm expecting another one tomorrow because I ordered from this particular place online, and for some reason they ship from 50 different places around the country, and so I get my order in bits and pieces here and there. So a little frustrating, but couldn't beat the prices. Some of that down. Now the only complaint I have about this paint is it's not as peacocky, let's say, as I wanted it to be, but it's a good color. I like it. And get in there, boys. It's hard sometimes with this type of metallic paint to get a good even layer, but you do your best. Do a quick pull with this one, and then I'm going to grab some of my other ones to layer the rest of it on. So I left enough there. Look at that. That's beautiful. Especially with that cerulean blue. This one. This is the one that I did with the 2 washout paints. That blue and burnt umber or burnt sienna. Yeah, it's a burnt sienna I did. Let's see how this looks. Oh yeah. That's grungerific. Oh man. Yeah, love that. Let's see if we can get any of that left over onto this. The black and black flash. Maybe there might be some left. Some here. On that edge. Oh yeah. How awesome is that? Let's do a couple more layers, and then I think I'll be ready to pull the stencil off and see what's left behind. Now you see this beautiful buildup on the stencil here. Let me see if I can get some of that up with a thinner, more fluid paint. I haven't used this in a bit. This is a Prussian blue from Amsterdam. Almost empty, but I can get some good plots out of it. plops there. This is almost like the indigo that I used earlier from Lucas Krill. A little brighter, if that makes any sense. A little nicer. Okay. Down here would be good, Eddie. Just like a color copy paper. Just gonna do a quick pull on this, not leave it down too long. Oh boy, yeah. Okay. Nice. Let's do this on tissue. Let's see how much I can get off that stencil. You guys are enjoying this. I know I've thrown out a lot of info, but you know, it's not often I get to sit here and talk with you like this. So when I do, it just all comes flooding out. But let's see what we got here. Oh yeah. Some teal goodness. Let's see. Look at that. This has to dry. Where you going, buddy? Where you going? Here. Let's bring this one back and let's get a little outline. What's left behind. Oh, nice. Yep. Very good. Just really quickly go over it. I'm going to do one more layer. And then I think it's time to pull the stencil up, and then we can let that dry, and then we can we'll do our final layer. Here, my gold. I'm gonna use my favorite gold paint here. Let's get her done. Areas for coming up painting my butt. Now you notice some of that blue is mixing up with the gold. I'm totally okay with that. I think it looks great. See here. That's gorgeous. This is one of those that's a great candidate for spraying. You could spray a nice like a bluish color. You could do yellow maybe. But yeah, this would be a great candidate for spraying. Let's see if we can get any gold on here. great. I love that. Okay, I'm going to pull the stencil up, and what's going to be left behind, we got to let dry. So I'll see you in a bit. So now that this layer is completely dry, I can go ahead and put a layer of paint down, pull it, let it dry, and then pull the print. But why don't we go a step further? I'm going to use some of my mica powders to fill in some of these open areas, and maybe go over the yellow as well, and then we'll pick it up. I think that would make it a lot more interesting and a lot more fun. These are mica powders from Hippie Crafter, and their information is listed below in the description box. And when you use that link and my discount code HippieFan10, you save 10% off on your first purchase. So, keep that in mind. Usually I use these for ink, but you can use them for the powders too. And I'm just trying to brush off some of the extra inky. And I think I'm gonna first start with some white. And come in some of these yellow areas maybe. What do we think of that? Or I can make some of these orbs white. That would be fun. When I do that, I'll start there. And I just take some on my brush. This is what they call paddle brushes. They're makeup brushes, basically. And just go over the area. Can take a little bit off here too. Do that. And just go over the area you want to cover. And that's it. Let's do this one. And these come off the plate fairly easily. These come off the plate fairly easily. If there's any residue left, I either just leave it behind and it'll work into another print, or I use a wet cloth, something very soft, or a baby wipe, and you can gently rub it off. For a little more added interest, I'm going to take a little stencil. These are strips. They are sold by PMR Studio. They're tidbits, they're called, and they're strip size, smaller versions of their larger, more popular designs. So this one is the strip of aqueous, and I thought I could use some of this pattern in the rest of these open spaces. Maybe create something just a little more textural. Okay, I think we're good. I'm going to shake some of this extra mica powder that's like chunky around here. Just kind of tap it away. And I think we're ready for some paint. Yeah, you can go ahead. You don't have to let this dry or anything. This is a dry medium. You can simply, I'm just going to smooth these out. Put your paint over it and then your paper down. Thought I'd pull this with a sap green. And I think that'll be interesting to pull out, maybe to push out more of the yummy bits. Well, you know what? We won't know unless we try it, so let's give this a whirl. I'm gonna pull it on this printmaking paper. This is from, I don't know, but it's You Create printmaking paper. You get 100 sheets, they're 9 by 12. Really nice, pretty good quality. And not expensive either, that's what I like. So this is sap green. It's a transparent paint from Amsterdam. Basics or standard. Yeah, they call it standard. Make sure this is nice and ready to go. Lay my paper down as centered as I can. And all right, once I am done burnishing this down onto my plate, I'm gonna let it dry for as long as it takes. This might take a couple hours, it might take overnight, but it shouldn't take too long. We didn't do a ton of layers as far as during the long haul, but I still think that we should give it enough time to get all that good mica powder up, get it all ready to go. But we can take a sneak peek and see what it's gonna look like. So you see that? That's gonna look so cool.